What do you do when you're widowed at 36 with 3 children? What do you do when suicide is awkward to talk about, but that's your situation? My conversation today with Erin is going to give you answers to that question and more. Let's get into the discussion now. Erin is here to share, to help you to know that you are not alone. And the way that you became a widow matters.
Many people talk about the ups and downs of married life, but no one really prepares you for life after your spouse passes away. Welcome to Widowhood Real Talk with Tina, a safe place for widows, widowers, and their friends and family to talk about love and loss. Find comfort as you listen to honest conversations between Tina and invited guests who've experienced the loss of their forever partner. Share their stories of love, grief, and healing. You are not alone in this journey. Join today's episode and discover a wealth of resources and learn how to connect with others who are traveling the same path. This is Widowhood Real Talk with Tina.
Hello, Erin. Welcome to the Widowhood.
Thank you, Tina.
Like, really? Thank you? Like, really? What goes through your mind? You hear, welcome to the widowhood. Oh, yes, thank you. That's what I want to hear. What is the ticker tape in your mind when you hear something like that?
I think I heard you ask this question before, and I definitely thought of my response. And I think someone else said it. It's like the club that you don't want to, you don't want to be a part of, but for whatever reason, you end up part of it. So
No.
it's nice to know I'm not alone.
Right. And I think, do you feel like you can ever be honest about not wanting to be part of that club?
Yeah.
In what spaces?
Someone that's gone through it before.
Okay.
Definitely, like you, like here. People that I let in and that know me.
Oh, people that you let in. Okay, but that brings an interesting question, because sometimes the people that knew us with our spouse may not be the people that get let in. So what does that look like, the people that you let in versus the ones that don't?
That's a really good question. I think that there's a certain level of my story that I tell people, and then there's a certain deeper level that I tell other people, like my friends that have gone through it, fellow widows. Even if they haven't, friends that I've made, in the recent years. But, there's so much to being a widow and what I went through, and especially since I know we haven't even gotten there yet, but since it was, a suicide death, it really changes things. And some people don't want to hear it or they can't handle it. So I have to be careful.
Thank you. And your husband's name, Erin?
Drew.
Thank you for sharing that. And thank you for trusting me that this is a safe space. And obviously you listened to some other conversations. So it's like, my intentions, why I do this. And do you feel like it's helpful to be in a place that you can share your story and not have to hold back?
Yes. I think it's helpful for me to have that opportunity in that space. And I think it's helpful for others, because one of the stories that I listened to was someone very similar to me. And when we had talked about this opportunity for me to do this here, I really kind of went back and forth. And once I heard that person's story, I thought, okay, I should do this, so that the next person coming along, if they happen to experience it, they know they're not alone. And because there's so many feelings that come up with it.
It is. And you're absolutely right. Oftentimes we want to know we're not alone, but it seems difficult in connecting. It seems difficult in being transparent and making your situation available. And you're right. And I also say this, no matter how your spouse passed, it's like people want to go, how they died. And it's like, really? Like, this is, how are you doing? You're asking me that question. I have a topical response, somebody passed and versus the somebody that really wants the details, and I want to share my story. I sort of hear that's what you were saying. Is that similar? Am I understanding? Right. So how did you meet Drew?
So he was a police officer. When he passed, he was a sergeant in Danbury, and that's all he ever wanted to do was become a sergeant. And in Danbury. So in order to get there, he had to start in a very small town, and that was in New Fairfield, and that's where I'm from.
Okay.
So I started working as a dispatcher there. I was really involved in the fire department. I was an EMT, and I started as a dispatcher, and I loved it. And he was one of the officers there
Oh.
that I met.
So did you hear his voice and go, "Ooh, okay, Daddy," or was it like you saw him? How did what was
Wow.
the connection? Or were you just listening, going, "Okay, Officer da 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 da"? I was like,
It was honestly, I loved his voice, but it was when he came in and introduced himself. Like they would
okay,
introduce themselves to the new dispatcher, and his hands were so soft, and he said he had never worked a day in his life. Like that was his comeback to, which was so funny because it's so not true. He always worked, but
uh-huh,
and his eyes were blue, and he had his hat on. He was just so handsome.
okay.
So, and he called me ma'am. Like he was very respectful.
Oh
Always,
wow.
always.
So you meet him there. How does it shift to? Are we going out? Does he ask you as a group? How does this first date or interaction happen?
I asked him out.
Okay. All right, Erin.
I got his phone number from one of our fellow dispatchers. I think I had been working there for a month, and I called him and I left a message, and he was on the night shift, so I figured, I'll hear from him. And then he called me back, and we talked for like 5 or 6 hours.
The first phone call.
Yeah, and I said, well, I wanted to know if you wanted to go out, and he said, how's tomorrow?
Okay, he was just as quick as you were.
Yeah, he was. He was. And he picked me up outside my college dorm. I was 21.
Okay.
And I thought, I'm not going to recognize him without his uniform. He's going to be in regular clothes.
Yeah.
But he told me he had a white car, and he pulled up and he picked me up, and we went to Applebee's and we saw my big fat Greek wedding because he was a gentleman and let me choose.
Oh, so he went for the chick flick, and did he like act like he was engaged? Was he on his phone, or he's just like, "I'm here"?
Oh
now?
yeah, no, he loved it. I think so,
Okay.
and we definitely used some of those lines as like inside jokes between us.
Okay. So was there a kiss on this first date?
I think so. Yeah, when he brought me, it was so long ago, but when he brought me back to my dorm, it was a very quick kiss, and then we were inseparable. I think we saw a movie again a couple days later.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And now, what year is this? You said forever. How long ago? What year ish?
it was November 2002.
November 2002. Okay. Wow. That is quite a bit of time. So we become inseparable. How does the relationship mature? How does it go meeting family? Give us some of that.
Okay, so we moved everything along really fast. So we started dating in November 2002. We moved in together in January.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was leaving school. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I was not doing well in school. And so I said, I'm done. So we ended up moving in together. I moved out from the dorm. He moved out from where he was living with his brother, and we got an apartment together in Danbury. And meeting family, oh my God, they were enchanted. They were enthralled with him.
But were you nervous? Like, was this the first time meeting somebody else's family, or how did that go for you?
I don't think I was nervous.
Okay.
I don't know if he was, but they just loved him. And we haven't done it in a few years since COVID, but we always did a caroling party, like Christmas carols
Oh, okay.
around my neighborhood. And so he came to that first one. I think it was the only one he ever came to because my grandmother said, all right, everyone, I want you to meet New Fairfield's finest. And he was mortified. He was so bright red. But he loved her and she loved him. And, he was just a gentleman.
Okay.
Always. So
Wow.
we were really nervous. And then in February, we got engaged. So it was just,
Oh, wow. Okay. So how was the engagement? How did that happen?
we went to Rhode Island. It was the winter time, but we went to the beach and we went to some of his favorite places from growing up because they always went to Rhode Island on vacations. And we were at a hotel. It's called the Sand Dollar Inn, and it was just very sweet and quick and romantic. And he got on his knee and gave me a ring, and that was it.
Were you expecting it? Were you totally surprised? Did any of your family know ahead of time?
I think he might have asked my dad.
Okay.
I think he might have talked to. I'm sure he did actually, if that was the kind of person he was. But they were surprised, yeah. And then we had my aunt's birthday party in upstate New York, so we went up and we told everyone there. Actually, my aunt announced it for us.
So you're like,
So yeah. And it was a lot of the time, a lot of the family was meeting him for the first time
okay.
as well.
So November 1st date, January move in, February engaged. Where do we go from there?
We went on a road trip to Florida. We drove to Florida right after the party. We spent a few days there together in Disney, and we adopted a dog because, why not?
Okay, baby starter family thing. Yep.
Yep, exactly. We drove back up to Connecticut, and I got pregnant in like June. So we were planning the wedding in November, but I got pregnant in June. So we had a quick like civil ceremony in July, July 29th, so a couple days ago. And then we had our wedding in
Wow, less than a year just about. Okay.
Everything was in a year.
Okay.
And then our daughter was born in February. So
wow.
yeah.
And how was it being a mom? How was he as a dad?
Very, very sweet. I was 22. I felt like I knew nothing. My daughter's 21 now, and she says, I don't know how you had a baby at this age, because I said, I don't know either. I didn't know anything. I thought I did, but he was very sweet, very hands-on. We have 3 kids, and all of them.
Okay, how old are the children? How old are your children?
21. My middle daughter is 16, and my son is 13, almost 14.
Okay. They are keeping you busy. So, hands-on dad and doing all of that. You just mentioned your wedding anniversary. I have a sense of what that's like for me. Can you explain what it was like for you in every year leading up to your wedding anniversary, Drew not being here?
It's hard. And I like to say that like the body forgets, the heart remembers, or the brain forgets, but the heart remembers, because leading up to everything, I'll forget about it. It'll just be a day, but then I'll feel something and I don't feel right. I don't feel well. I'm really emotional. I'm really tired. And then it clicks. Oh, that's right. It's something coming up. And it's not just anniversary. It's both of our, we had 2 wedding anniversaries, but it's the kids' birthdays.
Yes.
It's a really big deal. He passed on September 3rd, and my son's birthday is August 22nd. So it's really close. So pretty much from this time of year through September, I'm just like, I give myself a lot of grace. I give myself a lot of time. I know that I'm not going to be to par on everything, because it's grief. It sneaks up a lot.
It does. You said Drew left this world September 3rd. What year, Erin?
2017.
2017. So we are both on the 8-year track of this scenario. If you bumped in to someone in the grocery store and it's today and you just start talking and they go, well, did you, and somewhere or another you say something about your husband. And sometimes we talk about them like it is a current thing. And then it comes up about it's been 8 years since they passed and you're still having a hard time. And they would respond, why are you still having a hard time? It's been 8 years. What would be your honest answer you would want to give them versus the polite thing we often say?
Yeah, immediately what came up was, you're lucky not to have gone through that because you don't know what it's like. And maybe I would have thought something, I don't know if I would say it ever, but maybe I would have thought if someone had told me that like before I went through it myself, really you're still struggling. But I would say you're lucky not to have experienced a loss, or especially after so much love, that it's not still with you.
Thank you. Do you think people, and maybe even yourself before, do not really realize the depth of which grief impacts our life?
Yeah.
What have been some things you've learned that you were like, I did not expect that? When I think of that, for me, it was like, in my mind, the funeral's over. I know he's not here. I got a lot of stuff that I need to do. But that was like, no, this, every breath of air is impacted by him no longer being forever.
I feel that. Something that always catches me off guard is kind of when it's a really hot summer day, like it's our days in a row, like towards the end of the summer, so August, and then all of a sudden it's a really cool day. And I'm just like back in that moment, and it's so painful. And it still surprises me because I don't expect it. I don't see it coming. I could watch the weather and, I know the date and everything, but until I feel it inside me, and it hurts because it reminds me of that time of my life. Like, and I, more so in past years, not so much recently, but I would go through the events. I don't know if you do this, like, this is when they told me, this is what happened, and this, and I just kind of go through it, and it's like torturing myself. It's putting myself through it again, but sometimes it's inevitable.
I feel like it's a Netflix movie that I didn't order that comes up like,
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't ask to watch that. It's like in this invisible screen, like on the like teleprompter, like right there. And I was like, I canceled that subscription. I did not want that to play anymore. And I want to say the first couple of years it played in Technicolor. Like I felt like I was there in that scenario. And another widow whose husband actually was a police officer, she talked about EMDR and a service that she's used that's helped her, because to try to bring you out of that, because it is so debilitating when that happens. And you talked about the idea of it being hard. Your situation, everybody's is different, but how are you navigating the children, your grief, and life?
What do you mean, like today? Today or back then?
Today or just in this process?
I think it's probably, I don't know if it's easier for me having the kids, but it definitely gives a distraction. And I know I have to be okay, as much as we can, okay, like for them, especially early on. So that was a lot of like burying the feelings and focusing on them. And then eventually I got into therapy, and I still go off and on, but I'm in now since January.
Okay.
So I think it definitely provided a distraction. And then I could focus on them, and if they're okay, and I don't have to worry about myself. Because I love saying, oh yeah, I'm okay, I'm fine, until someone calls me on and says, are you really? What's really going on?
That's a good tip for someone whose friend has lost a loved one and they say they're okay. Just simply someone asking you, are you really, lets them know it's just not a check in the box kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. It's true. I know someone that says, is there anything you don't want to talk about? And that really gets the wheels spinning.
Ooh, how about you? I'm going to use that. Is there anything you don't want to talk about? Okay, that's good. That's gold right there. That's a tip for anybody that's looking to support somebody that's grieving, to know that question. You talked about stuffing it down for the children. So when did you get to cry? When did you get to be sad? When did you get to be just devastated that this is your life now, if it was always about the children?
Definitely not the first week after his death. I know I was running on anger and adrenaline. Like, I don't remember eating. I barely slept. I was just like, it was like an engine inside me just constantly going. And then after the funeral, I went upstairs to my mom's room and I just lay down and was like, okay, now it's over. I can rest. And I finally like rested. But I don't know. I think that I would just bury it down, and then all of a sudden it was just like a spring just popping up, and all of the emotions and the tears and the grief, and it happened that way probably.
Okay. And you talked about the anger. You talked about Drew's life ending by suicide. I don't want to boggle you down with questions on that, but I want you to have space to share as much as that process. Maybe when you noticed something about him or didn't notice, if that's something you want to share at your own pace without me bombarding you. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So I know that, suicide is I believe it's still the leading cause of death amongst law enforcement officers. Like, it's a huge, 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 huge problem, epidemic of sorts. And he struggled with mental health for many years. And I would notice it in not getting out of bed, not just going to work and coming home and that's it. Spending hours upon hours on the treadmill in our basement, just anything like avoiding. He would go to therapy and then he wouldn't. He'd be on meds and then he'd say, I don't want to be on meds the rest of my life. And I really believe that he should have been. There's a lot of mental health in his family as well. And it just got to a point where I said, I don't want to be, he would take out his, like, not anger, because it wasn't like that. He would take out his feelings, I guess, on me and the kids, like verbally, emotionally. And I just had it. And so he left one day, and I won't say exactly what he said for his privacy.
Absolutely.
It was very,
Emotional.
Yeah, very emotionally, verbally abusive. The things he said before he left, like blaming me. And then he was gone a few days later. And so that guilt and that blame, like I took his words and I held on to them. And I think it was easier to blame myself than to blame him, because he was a good guy and I wanted him to be seen as that way. And I don't share this in every circle. And, I only share his actual words with very few people. And it's both for him, and I don't want anyone to, their opinion of him to be swayed. And this is what's really hard with suicide, because it's not like other deaths at all. And there's so much. Because if it was, let's say it was cancer, there's many different reasons, but you'd kind of see the decline, you'd be expecting it in a way, and people would say, oh, that's so sad, and they would blame the cancer. But with suicide, like, who do you blame? Do you blame him? Like, that feels horrible. Do you blame his brain? I like to blame myself, because then I didn't have to worry about blaming him. I didn't want to do that.
Is that fair to you, though?
No, I was just going to say that. No. And I realized that, but it took a while.
Okay.
And I can still go there very easily, but I realized, and thanks to a lot of therapy, I realized that it's not anyone's fault. And, if it wasn't that moment, it might have, with, between him and I, it might have been another moment that had nothing to do with anything.
Right.
Just that thought was planted in his brain, and it was going to be there forever.
And something he was fighting for a long time. You mentioned about mental illness running in his family. Has that been something you've tried to navigate differently with your children to be aware?
Yes. Great question. Yes, I am on them. I'm constantly checking in. Aware of things, aware of little things that they'll say. Okay. Like one of them said, two of them have experienced intensive therapy. And one of them said to me one time, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm too sad to get out of bed. Right. Call the therapist right away. And then the other one had, forgot what it was, but yeah, I really am very careful watching them.
Thank you. Going back to the idea that people are not sympathetic about the way you became a widow, does it make you want to give them a different version so they would be, for people that don't know?
Yes. And I have, or I've tried sometimes. There was a family member on his side that kind of came at me afterwards. There's a lot of ugly things that happen, in regarding loss and grief, and people will say things and act that they wouldn't normally. And this person wanted someone to blame, and they wanted to blame me. And I tried to tell them what happened and my side of the story, and they didn't want to hear it. And it was really soon after his death, and I should have given this person that grace and, not worried, but I really wanted them to know my side. That was important to me. Since then, I'm more careful, but I definitely will if I need to.
People will try to weaponize another person's actions as if you did the act yourself. Yeah. I'm going to go out on a limb to say you would wish that Drew was here right now. You wish that he would have been able to be okay with being on medication for the rest of your life if that's what it takes to keep the things that are you're troubling you away.
Absolutely. And another thing with him, in the last few days of his life, we talked about him getting more significant help than he was getting. His therapist gave him a week off. Like it was kind of the perfect storm. Like everything bad was happening. But if he had gotten more help, if he had gone inpatient or something substantial like that, he was so afraid that he would lose his job. He was so afraid they were going to take his gun away and he was going to lose his job. And I've since learned that that's not the case, but he was dead set on like that's what was going to happen, and that was the last thing he wanted. I don't think he wanted to die, but he was very sick in the moment, and he was just one track mind of like, I can't lose my job, because he had tried so hard.
That part right there. Let's talk about that part, because that is a part that a lot of people, there could be somebody listening to this right now that's on the edge. And you mentioned earlier in the conversation that the percentage of people, I'm going to say law enforcement, first responder, military, there's a lot of stress in that job. They they are not out just, helping somebody get a cat out the tree or helping an old lady cross the road. They are showing up when crime is happening, and they are seeing the worst version of people 8 hours a day, 5, 6 days a week, and constantly building on top of each other what they saw, what they did. And it could have went from 2 neighbors arguing to child molestation, to someone else in a car accident and someone lost their life there, all in 8 hours. And then get up and repeat that again. And it's not the highest paying job. Do you think people really understand what law enforcement goes through? Those that are genuinely there for the job, to love people. There's always going to be a bad apple, but I would like to think that there are more good than there are those not doing right. And the stress, what did it look like for him to come home? Did he talk about it? Did he try to leave it at the door? How did he manage his after work self with the life that he was living at work?
It's probably why the treadmill, that escape or watching TV in our room, just to kind of decompress and also just have that space to kind of, relax a little bit. I don't think they have enough of that. I remember one call he was on where afterwards it was mandatory. They all had to have some kind of like session where they talk about it. But I can only think of one time in the 14 years or so he was an officer. So he did 2 years in New Fairfield, and then he transferred to Danbury when our oldest was a newborn, and he worked there. That was where he always wanted to be. And then he took the sergeant test, he took the detective test. He just wanted to move up so badly, and he failed it, or they didn't choose him. And then finally he got to be sergeant. And I think he was a sergeant for 1 or 2 years maybe, but that was, but he did a lot of other things. He did FTO, field training officer. So he was training the new guys. He was training them during Hurricane Sandy. I was home with the kids and I could hear the trees, and I'm on the phone with my father-in-law saying, I really hope my house doesn't blow away. Right. He was FTO with a new guy, and he got horrible motion sickness, but he did it because he loved it. He always did things like that. I remember so many instances of just him being such a good guy. And there was like a lower income community next to the department, next to the police station, and someone called, there was like loud noise or something, and he went over to check it out, and he ended up playing basketball with these kids. Like, that was the guy he was. He was definitely a good egg.
For the police officers that are afraid of losing their gun, what are some things that you've learned that they need to be aware of instead of being one-track mind, thinking they don't have options?
Yeah, there's definitely help out there, and it doesn't make you less of a person or less of a man or woman when you ask for help. It doesn't take away from your being good at your job or masculinity or something, whatever it is. It doesn't take away. It probably actually adds to how you are as a person, because it means that you're prioritizing your mental health and you're thinking of others as well. You're thinking of your family and how you can keep your job and be able to support them as well.
Thank you. What about the spouses of police officers? Because it could be male or female.
Definitely be there to listen and give suggestions, and know that you're not alone as well. And it was something that I talked about starting at his police department. I wanted to start a group for the spouses, and I just never got it off the ground. But there is a lot of support out there for law enforcement officers and their families, that you don't have to do it alone.
Thank you for sharing that. Having support. Do you find a conversation different talking to other widows who are widowed by suicide versus those that are not?
I've pretty much only talked to those widowed by suicide. I went to, early on, I talked to a few from Danbury, but a few widows from Danbury. But when I became a part of the Blue Help community, I believe it's called First Help now, and I went to a memorial dinner in Washington, D.C. in 2019, only for spouses of or widows from law enforcement. And all of us, so many people in a room, we had a dinner together. We had a memorial service that we put together with our spouses' pictures, and that was at the law enforcement memorial in Washington, D.C. And our officers, their names are not allowed to be displayed there because of their manner of death, which is very unfortunate. So we were able to do our own thing there.
How does that make you feel, that reality?
It's heartbreaking, because maybe he wasn't killed in the line of duty, and no disrespect to those and their families that were, but would he have done that if he wasn't an officer? I mean, it definitely led to significant trauma and mental health. So it's really disappointing.
I can see that. Have you stayed in contact with some of those ladies from that? And how has that relationship been on your grief journey?
It's wonderful, because, sometimes I have a really light sense of humor, and sometimes I'll have a dark sense of humor, and something thank you, my people. And then something will come up where I'm just like, oh my God. I signed my kids up for swim camp or swim lessons or something, and it wouldn't let me skip the second parent. I had to go in and type NA, not applicable, for everything. And I was like, I messaged them and I said, are you kidding me? In 18 or 19, I have to put in a second parent when that second parent is not there. So I was angry, but I was laughing. It's it allows us to have that dark sense of humor that gets us through it, because we get each other.
For the people who don't get you, what are some things that they could do to maybe get in to the inside? They I love Erin, and I'm listening to this podcast, and I thought she had moved on and she was okay. I've seen Erin laugh out with the kids. I thought that this was fine. And I'm listening to this podcast, I'm going, this still hurts. What are some ways that they could invest or lean in, maybe for you or someone else that's supporting someone that's grieving?
Just know that we are very good at putting on a brave face and posting stuff on Facebook that's very positive, but there's always more truth behind what's going on. Don't believe everything you see. Don't judge a book by its cover. And ask those questions like we talked about. Is there anything you don't want to talk about? Or even, I know it's been 8 years, but I remember his name. I say his name. That's very important.
That part right there. I know this will air later, but we have an annual event called Walk for Love. And it is the first full week of August, where we ask people to walk 1 mile a day. And at the end of that post, hashtag WFL, hashtag your loved one's name. Because I've learned sometimes saying their name, people make it weird. It's well, I don't want to say something to get you upset. It's like, they are always dead. Like, I am always thinking about it. I don't know how you think this is for you. Do you like hearing people say Drew's name? What does that do for you? And people telling stories about Drew or the awkward silence, which would you prefer?
Oh my God, I totally get that. Yeah, I want to hear his name. I want to hear the stories. I want to be able to share those stories with my kids. Yeah, like I posted something on Facebook or Instagram and someone messaged me and said, "Oh, I remember him," and they told me a story. And and this was just a year or two ago, and I was able to tell the kids, "Did you know this about Daddy?" Like, it was wonderful. Because you're right, we know that they're gone and they're not coming back. It doesn't make us think, "Oh no," like it doesn't make us sad necessarily. It's really important to keep that alive.
Thank you for sharing that. And I'll say this as a caveat. Ask your person. Would you prefer me to say their name? Ask your person, when I think of a story about them, can I text you or share with you? Would that be okay? Take their lead. We may say yes, but you may have the person that may be devastating for them. But I have learned the majority of the people I talk to, because it lets them know other people, like, for real care, that this is genuinely still in your mind. When Mark passed, I was living in Pennsylvania, and we were both trying to get a job in Virginia. So he had an apartment here. And some of my girlfriends, because we lived in this area, I was going to drive from Pennsylvania. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pull that off. And they said, we got this. We're going to clean up the apartment. You tell us like what to do and we'll do everything. I want to say it was maybe 6 months later. One of the ladies that did the cleaning up, she said, I got to tell you something. I was having a bad moment about Mark. And she said, I kept a couple of his shirts and I smell them now and then and think about him and cry and think about how much love you guys had. And not that this was trauma bonded, but I was like, it is this bad, right? Like, it is this hard. And when people share, it's like we are our community, the people that knew us, the friends we spent time with, they are in pain with us. They may just need permission to share. And I think it was about the 1 year anniversary, because I started telling everybody, I want to hear every Mark story you have. I went to them and like, I need to hear, because in my mind, it's like, wait, this really happened, right? Like, I loved him. Or have you ever had that? Like, I need reinforcement that this was a real thing.
Yeah. Yes, definitely. Because time really changes things. And my perception of him, and trying to remember things about him, and, even the sound of his voice. Very, very important. I did have someone reach out to me the other day. So there's a race, a 5K that we go to almost every September, that was started by a widow in Connecticut whose husband died by suicide, from East Hartford. And his name was Paul. And they have a race every September, and we go. And so someone messaged me the other day, is it okay if I put Drew's name on the shirts that we're making to do the race, to walk the race? And I said, yes. And can we do the shirts as well? So I think we're all going to participate in that. So that was a really nice, I've never met this person before, but someone that she knows also died by suicide from Danbury a couple of years ago. So I've connected with them, and it was a wonderful reminder that, that people are still thinking about him.
Yeah. Does it matter to you if people are thinking about Drew or not, and why?
Does it matter?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we've been forgotten by a lot of people. And I know that is a very common experience, especially in law enforcement. I don't really hear from anyone at the department. And that started way sooner after his death than I had hoped for.
Like, how soon?
The first year is, very full of amazing things. I mean, this is something I wanted to talk about too, is people were so kind after he passed. My neighbor, Mary, she started a GoFundMe. She started a meal train. People delivered meals through November or early December. Every night there was people came and they helped clean the house when I wasn't here. People did things for the kids. There's one of the elementary schools in town I'm really good friends with, someone on the PTO board, and she made it so that Tyler can attend any after school activity for free for a year. just the kindest things. People gave us movie tickets. They took the kids out, just so many kind things. But, and then they did invite us to the annual Danbury Police Christmas party in December, but we were going to visit my brother in Nebraska. So I ended up not going. But yeah, pretty soon after that first year, maybe year and a half, I don't hear from anyone.
And what do people need to know that's happened a year and a half later?
What's happening a year and a half later? It's still all of the
Sucks.
Yeah.
Do you think year 2 sucks more than year 1?
It all sucks.
That's fair.
I don't know.
Well, let me say this. I experienced an immense amount of grief fog in year 1. Like when I try to go back and recall, if I'm not looking at my journal, I'm like, I read that, I go, we did that? Okay.
Yeah.
Year 2, my brain is not, I was like, ooh, that's all of it. There's no buffer. That's what I meant. What do year 1 versus year 2 look like for you?
I definitely understand that. It's like the protection that our brain is trying to give us, maybe like like a buffer, like you said. I see that. I definitely see how you lose that. You don't have widow brain as much. Although I think we're always stuck with it.
No. You said you wanted to talk about the way support changed a year and a half later. Were there some other things you wanted to make sure that we spoke about?
No, I think just the kindness of people that really came out of nowhere, and it really helped me be able to support people that I've seen go through it. Like I'm buying groceries, or someone, an officer from Drew's department passed a couple of years ago, and I wasn't close to him or his wife or anything. And I did not want to go to the funeral. I said, it's going to be too hard. It's going to be too emotional. No, but I ended up going, and I reached out to his widow, and we've built a friendship. And because I know what to do now, and I will probably reach out to her tonight and just be like, hey, I'm thinking of you, because I don't ever want to be one of those people that I see now and think, I wish that they had reached out. I wish that we weren't forgotten about. It gives me that perspective of what it feels like, and I'm able to use that to help others.
It does, because the film, your person's dead and you're forgotten about. It's like a double whammy. Do you think people feel awkward or weird or don't know what to say to someone who has lost their spouse to suicide?
Yes, I do. And when I went to that officer's funeral, I saw the other officers there, and they were grieving, and it definitely helped me to remember, like, they're humans and they're grieving as well. It's not just about me. It's
right.
About the kids. It's not always about us. It's about them as well. And what are they feeling? And it's got to be hard for them too. They lost Drew and they loved him. He was such a good guy. We called him, my family, we called him like Jimmy Stewart, because he was just like so kind and everything. And so I know it's hard for them too. It's hard to put myself in those shoes sometimes, because I want to be mad and I want to be resentful, but it's not.
And if you were mad and resentful, what would that look like for you?
I definitely went through periods of that in the beginning, like unfriending them on Facebook, other officers.
Massive defriending.
Yes. Definitely, because I'm like, who are you to treat me like that? You don't even know me. Yeah.
Okay.
Subtle. Very subtle. I am
Just
subtle.
ghosting some people. If someone said, what is one thing I could do to help a child that is grieving? Any recommendations?
A child that they're related to, or?
A child that's grieving.
I think maybe the first thing that came up was like making a book for them with pictures that they have or stories that they have about the person that they lost.
Okay.
And giving it not to the child, but to whoever takes care of the child.
Okay.
When they think it's appropriate to give it to them. Those are things that are easily forgotten. Like my son was 6 when Drew died. He just turned 6, and I know that there's so much he doesn't remember. And he wants to be a police officer, and he watches The Rookie, and he loves to talk about Drew. So, but he doesn't remember those stories. So having that would be lovely.
Okay. If you were in a room on a stage talking to people about grief, and talking to people who are grieving, what are 1 to 3 things you would recommend for them in their grieving process? From your experience.
Okay. I would try to tell them try not to compare yourself to other people, that the journey is not linear. I don't know if this is your experience, Tina, but we don't go through. Yeah, exactly.
Wait, pick it up again and all over. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't go through like, oh, these is like, I remember learning I have a degree in psychology and I wrote down on my exam like the different, that's not true. Like we go through them, but it's not linear, and everyone's journey is different, and everyone's like the things that they do to cope are different, and it doesn't make you less or worse of a person or better of a person. It's just everything is very individualized. And don't beat yourself up.
I think that's true. Do you think some things are common though also? And what would those commonalities look like?
I think it's common to have hard days, even if you've had a streak of really good days. Like I'll do that a lot. I'll say, oh, wow, I'm feeling great. And then something will hit me like a memory, or like the day I talked about where it goes from like a hot day to a cool day and it comes out of nowhere. And that's okay. And it's frustrating, but it's not going to be like that forever.
It's not going to be like that. Has your grief changed over the 8 years?
Yes.
How so?
I don't go through the Netflix movie like we talked about of I don't.
The Netflix movie.
Yeah. I don't put myself through that anymore because it doesn't do any good at all. I don't like to, this is the last thing. I try not to think about it. I try to, in those days, especially September 3rd and the days before and after it, I try to really be kind to myself. Okay. Comfort food or whatever. Good night's sleep, doing something with the kids. On the anniversary of his death, we always do something together. My daughter has always started a new job on that day, and I don't know why it's worked out that way historically, but we try to see a movie or get ice cream and
do something like that.
Yeah.
How has this conversation been for you?
It's been good. Like you said, I'm definitely
relaxed. I noticed the tattoos. Are any of these tattoos honoring Drew or representation of him? And so can you share those with us?
Sure. So this is the first one that I got. And it's the semicolon, for mental health and the kids. And then on the other side of the heart. And then I got his badge.
Oh, wow.
My arm. And that was a little over a year after his death. And yeah, it was my way of honoring him. That
was my first ink that I got. Well, it's the only tattoo I have when Mark passed. I can relate to that. Huh?
What did you get?
Okay. Don't judge me because I'm not dressed top and bottom, right? I actually have on shorts.
No judgment.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
So Mark loved to hunt. And so he was a deer hunter. Wow. So this is the face of a deer, but I got roses to forever love. And then these are the horns of the deer right there. I didn't want to put his name on me, but I felt like this was a good representation of love and something that was very symbolic of who he was and what he loved to do.
That's beautiful. Did it hurt?
When I came in, because when I went to the artist, they were like, well, you have to schedule with the artist. I was like, this is not what I remember tattoo parlors being like. I was like, this is bougie. And so I brought in the artwork, what I found, and they were like, okay, this is going to be good. It was supposed to be set up for 2-3 hour sessions. And I was like, can I take for 3 hours? And I was in better shape then. But it felt like, it felt like I've had acupuncture. I'm a breast cancer survivor. It felt like a lot of that, but it wasn't painful. It felt like a lot of little bee stings or something. And so my daughter was there. The guy had a movie we could watch. I mean, he had entertained. And then he said, how old are you? I was like 50 plus. He goes, you got good skin. It took half the time that he had planned and it came out really nice. So I was satisfied. Wow. I'd always wanted a tattoo when I was in the Army. I never did. I was like I got this tattoo on the day that was our wedding anniversary. That happened to be the only day that they have a schedule. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Wow. Yeah. No coincidences.
At all. So Erin, I have asked you a lot of questions and you've been good with that in answering. Any questions you have of me?
It's not really a question, but it's something that you made me think of a second ago when you said it was your wedding anniversary. I see the number 576 everywhere because that was his number. Like I just saw 2 cars yesterday with
Oh,
576. Or like Dunkin' Donuts will be the number on the cup, and the kids and I'm always taking pictures and sending it to them. So
oh,
I feel like he's everywhere with
that's
us.
nice.
How are you doing? How is year 8 for you?
You know, I sometimes I'm just like, he left this world 8 years ago? Like, this really happened. It is mind boggling to me. In the first part of the year, up until March 11th, is when Mark passed. I was reading from my journal, one journal entry a week. My triggering season is March when Mark passed, and then going into May, which is my birthday. We got married the day after my birthday. I don't recommend that to anybody. Think of the long game. Mother's Day, then it's his birthday, and then Father's Day. So from, I say, end of April-ish till like the end of June, I clear my schedule. I've learned how to say no. If it's not something I have to do, I try to get as much out of my plate, because his birthday and his death anniversary, those two are super hard for me. And I've learned to tap out. Like, I'm not going to be at work and be anybody's supervisor. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. I need to focus on me, because it still hurts. I mean, and interesting enough, so in my spare bedroom, there are still some things that were Mark centric that are really, I'm keeping for the kids. Well, trying to do some things in the guest room, make it a little bit more friendly, had to pull all those things out. And I was just pulling stuff, changing out bedding. And then I came across his program from his service. I stopped everything. I crawled up on the blankets on the floor. And it's been a long time since I read that. And I laughed. The tears didn't come flushing out, but they were hovering right there. And I was like, I remember that day. I remember that service. I remember the honor guard, the folding of his flag. And I was like, a lot has happened. A lot has happened. And even though this has been hard, I would have chose him all over again if I knew that I still had to go that way. I would have I would have never imagined that day on vacation, him passing, that it would lead to me having conversations with people, giving them a safe space to talk about their loved one, to have an entire nonprofit supporting people who are grieving, having a retreat in December in Atlanta for widows, or having a big fundraiser here in 2026, being able to have tools or assets, or having, like, I'm having a grief support meeting tonight at 7:00 and doing things for people. I didn't start off like, my husband died and I'm going to make purpose out of my pain. No, this found me in the process of this. And it's okay that it's not okay sometimes. Your whole person left this world, and this is devastating. I've learned to be okay with saying his name. People ask me, so I was like, well, my late husband, X. No, ain't no X. He died. Do not disrespect me with that.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm still not a fan of it. I've learned to be at peace with it. And now it's the things as my children's lives are changing, and how to manage the absence of their dad. So my siblings join in, my children's godparents being part of that, because I can't be Mark. I can only be me.
You can only be you. I love that. And I love what you've done and the good things you've channeled your grief, or you've channeled your power, your energy into that.
It is a calling from God. Widowhood, Real Talk with Tina, is a nonprofit, non-religious based organization. Anybody, any faith, any belief, that this is about your pain and us showing up and supporting you. Me personally, individually, I feel as if it is God calling me to be in this space, to support and love and to help people, and just do that. Let love show up. Let support show up, because it is hard. It is already the hardest experience I've had in my life, let alone to feel like you're alone and nobody cares. If someone can listen to a podcast, if someone can watch a video or do something and know there are other people that feel this way. I'm not alone. Okay, if that person made it, maybe I can too find something that I can find living for. Life can change. Erin shared about going to therapy after it was hard. Maybe therapy is okay. That's something I can do, and this could help me because we learn from our stories. And now I've written an entire book and doing the final edits on that and getting ready to have that available to tell the story of grief in these 5 widows, not my memoirs, but a real raw story of 5 women. And then there'll be a book about 5 men and then their children, because we don't want to read a grief guide, but we can read a juicy novel. So hopefully this will do that.
I like what you said about doing things on your own a second ago, and something that it reminded me of when I took my daughter to get to her the last set of her tubes in her ears. It was just me and her, and it was September 2018, so it was a year after he passed, and that was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, because it was her 4th set of tubes, and he was always there with me, and he was the one that would bring her back and calm her down because she would be fighting like crazy. And to do that on my own, it was one of the hardest things, but also, like you said a second ago, it was empowering. It was empowering that I got to do that. I could do that on my own. And I've shown up for my nephew had surgery, and I sat with my sister-in-law. My brother had to work. He's alive, but I remember what that was like. And then I think it was May 2018, we all went to Ireland, my dad's side of the family, and my daughter Kayla, she was 14 at the time. And I took her, just she and I went to London and Paris after that on our own. And I was able to do that. And that was terrifying, but it was also empowering. So I want to just say, not to be Pollyanna, but there are things that we learn as widows that we can do on our own that are very empowering, especially as someone that's gone through so much trauma.
I would agree with that. We find an inner strength in ourselves that we did not have to tap into because our husbands held that space. And when they're not there, though we may crumble, there were weeks I did not take a shower or a bath right after Mark passed. But there can become a point where you can go, okay, girl, you did that. I'm proud of you. And that's okay. It can be okay, because the reality is our story is still continuing. Our purpose, our reason, our life, even though we wish they were here, it doesn't take away that our life is not important and we deserve to live. I personally feel like widows should be celebrated. We did a whole thing. We stayed committed. We were in this marriage. We said till death do us part, and we really did that. Kind of like, wow. But it's like some younger women would do well to me to connect with widows, even if it was a widow that endured a horrible marriage and what she learned of that. Maybe that would make you walk away sooner. But someone that has done something this phenomenal, that you look at marital statistics and what that looks like, and especially younger widows, because I think there's something different to navigate when you don't look like what the world thinks a widow should look like, in trying to navigate that.
Absolutely. I know. And I do get questions sometimes. I'll be in the store, or when I used to work at a treatment facility, and I'd have a dress on or shirt on like this, and people would say, "Oh, is that your dad?" And I'll be like, "Oh, no, that was my husband." Oh, or they'll be like, "Oh, were you a police officer?" I said, "No, it was my husband." So that's kind of like what we said about choosing what we share with different people. And sometimes I like to just cover it up and no one will see it. But yeah, but it does bring awareness that, you can be, I was 36 and that's not normal, but neither is dying in the way you did. It goes against everything that our bodies and our brains tell us. So
right.
Yeah. And that they deserve to be supported just as much. Right.
I'm so glad I asked about the tattoo and allowed you to share that.
Me too.
Erin, thank you for being willing to have this conversation. I'm going to say something to the listeners, and then I would like for you to close out this conversation. whatever you want to share, something we didn't talk about, or information, and where people can find you on social media, where you're located at. Okay. I want to say thank you for being part of this conversation. I am sorry for the person that is no longer here that drove you here, but I'm glad you're here. And if you're interested in connecting, please email me at widowhoodrealtalk@gmail.com. Erin.
Thank you, Tina. I was super nervous, but I'm so glad to have had this opportunity and for someone to hopefully get something out of it. If not now, maybe someday down the road. It's a group or a club that you never want to be a part of, but it's so good to know you're not alone. So thank you so much. And a lot of beautiful things have happened to me since this experience. I have 2 degrees since then, and I just graduated nursing school, and I just got my first job as a nurse. I start in 2 more weeks, and yeah, it's just the biggest blessing, and I'm so grateful. And I'm on TikTok and on Instagram, so I'll be able to send it to you probably. Okay.
Yep. It'll be in the show notes. All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for spending another episode with Widowhood Real Talk. If you found the contents of today helpful, share the episode to anyone you know who may need it. Subscribe to the show and tune into Widowhood Real Talk each week. Then, visit widowhood-realtalkwithtina.org to join the community and access additional resources. Remember, you are not alone in this journey.